All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record in the 53rd Circuit Court for the County of Presqu'île. We are providing public access to this hearing both in the courtroom and also online. And we're here for sentencing in the matter of People v. Keith Green. It's file numbers 23-93281 through 23-93296. Counsel, please state your appearances, beginning with People.
May it please the court, Your Honor, Blaze Ryan on behalf of the people.
William Key on behalf of Keith Allen Green, the defendant seated to my right.
All right, good afternoon. Mr. Keogh, have you had a chance to review the report and recommendations with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Any additions or corrections to the factual information in the report?
No, Your Honor.
The advisory guidelines on the two counts, one in each of the files ending in 281 and 282, are scored at 0 to 11 months. Any scoring challenges from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ryan, any additions, corrections, or scoring challenges from the people?
There may be one just correction, slight correction, Your Honor. That would be on page 3 after description of offense narrative.
Okay.
For the paragraph that starts 42623, second from the bottom. Just a simple note that is $17,078.60. The decimal. That would be mine. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll ask the Department of Corrections to make that change. All right, any scoring challenges?
No, Your Honor.
All right, now, before we get into elocution, Mr. Keel, I guess we should first address restitution had been not agreed upon, but a cap was established. If we reached an agreed upon restitution number, or do we need a hearing?
Judge, we have reached pretty much the agreement with the exception of one of the jobs was for a Beth Cole. The amount of that was $39,005.04. Talking with my client and also talking to the victim advocate, I think there is a dispute, at least on our side, in regards to that specific amount. I guess it would be our request that we could have a hearing in regards to restitution as to that amount, but we would stipulate to the total amount minus that with possible restitution.
Okay, I'm not sure whether I received a copy of the actual restitution claims that break them down by which victims. You ever had that? Okay, well, under the Cole, there's a $39,391.13 on the listed restitution claim.
That amount that I have is handwritten down. I think that's a. Well, Judge, I think that it probably doesn't matter much. I think we're just objecting to the amount as a whole. So I guess we probably wouldn't object to that number that is provided right there. Because I think either way, it's we're challenging, I believe, the full amount there as it stands.
And that was. These are the district court numbers, so I guess I just have no way of knowing which one of our file numbers it corresponds to up here. The Cole number, what
Call is 23-0137-FY.
No, that's a district court.
23-093287-FH.
Judge, we would stipulate to that number. Actually, I think that was probably my mistake posing it onto my notes here, so we would stipulate to that. We just found.
The 3939-113.
That's correct.
Do you stipulate that that's the claim, or are you agreeing to that as
No,
restitution?
we'll stipulate to that claim.
But you want to hear it now.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's in, I'm sorry, that was 93287, you said?
287, yes, Your Honor. 093-287.
Well, typically then the, like I said, I don't know how council wishes to proceed. The appellate courts have been reminding trial judges that restitution must be established at the time of sentencing. So I would typically adjourn the sentencing out so that we could have a contested hearing. However, I do see a bunch of people in the courtroom. Are there statements that people wish to make today, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, Your Honor. If I could say something about that claim that they have
Sure.
on the restitution.
Sure.
My understanding was that this was the actual plea agreement was for the $422,942.90. They were just to be credited for any completed work. I know Mr. Keogh came to my office and said that some work was completed for this Miss Cole, but we called her and a subcontractor was sent out there and she actually had to pay for that subcontractor. So I don't think anything should be credited to it. And that was for the actual agreement.
Well, at the end of a hearing, you might be right, but if credit is to be given for completed work and the defense is saying that work was done and you're saying, no, it wasn't, or it wasn't done by him, that's something that I have to resolve by hearing testimony, I think. Do we have the necessary parties to have a hearing? I mean, this is the only thing I have in the docket right now. We could have a restitution hearing on that one aspect right now, if parties are ready.
That might be possible, Judge, if not opposed to that. I mean,
We were just able to reach her by the phone, Your Honor. I could see if we could get her to come in.
Well,
I
we've
think
got,
on our side, Judge, it's a subcontractor. My client is in contact with him right now, and he could be available by Zoom. I would assume he could probably Zoom on.
well, we've got a couple different options then. And one, we can proceed with as much of the sentencing as we can today and allow anybody to be heard today that wishes to be heard. And then we probably won't come to a completion of the sentencing hearing today, but we can facilitate as much as we can and then come back for restitution to be established at a hearing before the judgment enters. Or we can take a recess and you guys can see if you can get witnesses. I mean, I know that's sort of on the fly, but if you wanted to have a restitution hearing on the one claim today by Zoom testimony so that we could get it all completed, I'll leave that up to you. I don't know if you want to take a 5-minute break and talk about it, or
I think we could proceed with the victims, and the victim advocate can maybe, or my office could make a call to that victim and see if she could come in without, I guess, wasting the court's time, and see if that would be an option.
okay, so we can just proceed with the sentencing, and maybe if you can see if Ms. Cole can zoom in, and if you can see if the subcontractor can zoom in, and maybe we'll be able to proceed. All right, well, laying aside momentarily then the issue of restitution, Mr. Keogh, anything you want to say on behalf of your client?
Yes, Your Honor. I know there are a lot of people that are involved, a lot of victims involved in this matter. I know that Mr. Green retained me quite some time ago, and I think taking a look at some of the bank records and some of the evidence in this case, it was pretty clear to me that this is not the kind of premeditated fraudulent activity we sometimes see. I know that there are contractor fraud cases. This was more, I believe, a situation where Mr. Green and some partners they had a business environment that wasn't particularly buttoned up particularly well. There was money that was placed in general funds that were accessible to a number of different people. Mr. Green and one of his partners went to the Holly Police Department and made a complaint that one of the other partners had stolen money. That was done earlier this year, which was missing from the bank account. And that was treated as a civil issue by the Holly Police Department, and no charges were eventually filed. Mr. Green, during much of this time, was going through his own personal problems. He wasn't on top of the ship, if you will. The sales were made to the victims in this case. Mr. Green was not directly involved in those sales. The requirements for the jobs were eventually sent to him, and the jobs weren't completed. In September of 2022, Mr. Green suffered a stroke, and later on in January of 2023, his brother passed away, and my client was in Arizona during that time, attending to that situation. Throughout the PSI, I think the court can see that Mr. Green has suffered from a lot of health problems and some personal issues that kept him from minding the store, if you will. He, in his own situation, lost his contractor's license as a result of this, and has expressed to me anyway, contrary to the PSI, that he has a great regret about what had happened in this case. And he is desperately trying to make it right. And I know that's going to be very difficult for him to do so. He has indicated to me that he would very much like the opportunity to keep working and do the best he can to start making restitution in this case, which is going to be substantial. He's indicated to me that he does have it worked out with the county of Pierre County Jail, that they would accept him serving time in that facility and could be granted work release to do jobs and continue to make money, so that he would actually be able to start making restitution. I do know that if he's incarcerated, I'm sure on some level that will satisfy some of the victims in this case, but at the end of the day, the victims will need to be made whole, and for him to be incarcerated and being able to work is probably going to help facilitate that a lot more than him just being incarcerated. So with that being said, we would ask the court to follow the terms of the plea agreement, and would ask the court to consider holding jail in advance if possible, and allowing him to work as hard as he can to start making efforts on this restitution in this matter.
Hold on, Mr. Keogh, are you getting it up an audio record?
It's going in and out.
Okay. I don't know where in the world that plane's going. Circles around the courthouse or something?
It was pretty loud.
I just want to make sure we have a good record here. Maybe.
It's coming back.
We don't have any windows open.
No, sir.
You can identify the pilot, I guess.
Yes.
Maybe we can give it a try, Mr. Keogh. All right, you can go ahead and continue, Mr. Keogh.
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess once again, just to finish my final thought on this, I know that Mr. Green does have the serve as, if the court were inclined to give jail time, Mr. Green would be able to serve his time in Lapeer County Jail and would be able to get out to work. And while it might seem the justice would be served by having him serve time in jail without working, certainly making the victims whole is going to be a key component to justice being served in this case. In any way that he can be allowed to work, to be able to start making payments on that restitution would be something we would very greatly support. So we would ask that he at a minimum be allowed to serve his time down in Lapeer County Jail, and if the court is inclined to give jail time and probation as outlined in the report. I thank the court.
Thank you. Mr. Green, it's not required that you would tell me anything today, but it is allowed. Is there any statement you wish to make or no?
I can't think of anything more than what he already said.
All right. Mr. Ryan, any input from the people?
Yes, Your Honor. Unfortunately, this man really exploited victims during a time of crisis, during this hailstorm when their homes were kind of devastated by it. It's caused these victims some pretty serious financial ruin. It's tormented their lives financially. And he's been given the opportunity to make it right, and we haven't seen that happen yet. So our concern is certainly how do these victims get paid? And the PSI is certainly concerning as well, where it states he shows little to no remorse for the victims in this case, and not once during the interview expressed that he felt bad for taking money from the victims and not providing service to them. He's placing blame on business partners for not managing the money correctly and denied having any criminal intent. So we also have a lack of responsibility and, in my opinion, a lack of remorse for these victims. And so with that, I think the court is going to hear, I think there's a lot of people who do want to talk, so I would give them the opportunity to speak, or would ask the court to give them the opportunity.
Yeah, so why don't we, I know your victim coordinator stepped out, but do you want to facilitate calling up who we're going to call up? And
Is there a podium, or where would you normally do that?
Well, you pointed me for.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like. And you can state your name and spell your last for the judge. Yep. Are you ready, Your Honor?
yes, sir.
My name is Keith Lazinski. It's L-U-S as in Sam, Z as in zebra, C as in Charles, Z as in zebra, Y-N-S-K-I. First name is Keith.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
My name is Keith Lazinski. We hired Capital Roofing Authority on May 27th of 2022. We handled the damages done from the hailstorm to our house in Presque Isle. We gave the check for over $17,000 to Mr. Green's partner, which is Martin, when we were able to make contact with the company in 2022 and July of 2023, we were given excuses and a runaround as to why our work hadn't been completed. At one point, my wife requested that either the work be done or a refund be given. This year, after Mr. Green informed the court that he intended to make contact with either the victims or to try to make things right, that he would do the right thing and contact us. As of today, no attempt to reach us has happened. At this time, we request that Mr. Green be incarcerated, as it is clear that he has no intention on doing the right thing. Thank you.
Sure.
You could just state your name for the.
Sure. Carrie Wilson, Wilson. Just I want to pretty much the same things that were just stated, but primarily the one thing that I think was obvious for me was I followed up on a couple things. When I was, we gave them $24,000 down. That was about half of what we were supposed to pay for the whole job. We followed up later that year to find out about whether materials had been ordered and whether they had been shipped. And in both cases, I contacted the firms that supposedly they had ordered the material from and who they were supposed to ship from. Both had indicated that it had not happened. And what concerned me the most was I got paperwork back from Capital Roofing stating that they had in fact done this, and they had taken documents that they got from these companies and then forged them, for example, on materials they had marked it as paid and sent it to me to say that they had paid for the material. And same thing with the shipping. I went with them and they said that they had never gotten an order from them to ship the materials. So at that point, I was concerned, that this was really a problem. I never specifically talked with Mr. Green. I was always with his partners or his employees. So, but it's clear to me that there was some fraudulent activity going on there. And quite honestly, we don't expect to ever see the money back. But I do think that something has to happen here in terms of some confirmation of payment or else incarceration.
Thanks, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Steigerwald. I'm a service-connected disabled veteran. I had to retire early due to health issues. My wife and I gave Mr. Green's company over $26,000 to have work done. None of it was ever started or completed. I have a daughter-in-law with multiple sclerosis and a granddaughter that that was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So we all have problems. I'm sure Mr. Green has his. The rest of us all have issues too. So I have no hope in getting any restitution from Mr. Green. So I would prefer that you incarcerate him.
Thank you, sir. Do see a Beth Cole in the waiting room for Zoom. So if you want to communicate,
Very good.
what we can give you after we're done with this, give you a minute to line up your witness.
Excellent. Very good.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Grundy. Mr. Green's company. My dad went to the grave not knowing the end of this. He was very adamant. My mom worked a whole year for 30 grand that we got no materials, no work started, the same runaround as everybody else. We don't have a lot of faith in getting any money back, but we want to make sure that nobody has to have this happen to them and be a victim in this type of situation again. We would definitely like to see him incarcerated and pay for what he's done. By having a company, you're the owner. It falls on your shoulders, regardless of finger pointing. It falls on your shoulders. So, oops, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that you can look at yourself in the face and know that you essentially stole money. You said the last time we sat in the hallway, you were taking names and stuff and you were going to make right by it and all this. We never heard from you. Never heard from you, Keith. So that shows me the faith of nothing that he's going to do good by that. So we would like to see him incarcerated, sir.
Thank you.
My name is John Porter, Porter. My background is that of a Michigan civil servant who assisted youth and adults with disabilities. As a counselor, then supervisor, then manager with the state and federal vocational rehabilitation program from 1968 to 2008. My temperament is usually based on compassion. 40 years of experience taught me that people can often do what others think might be impossible. If given the opportunity, as long as they have or can develop an inner drive to succeed. I believe Mr. Green can succeed in his chosen career if he's given the opportunity to do so without a period of incarceration. After speaking with him briefly twice, I'd like to see a period of supervised probation, the duration of which would be tied to progress in his meeting the restitution obligations that he accepted in his plea agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Thomas Scott, Gott, and I'm nervous, so
It's okay, take your time.
pretty much what everybody had said, you know, I was dealing with Stoljan Persek. He was the contractor that I signed the $54,000 repair for, and he took $15,000 as a down payment. Same situation. I said, where are the trusses? Our flat roof was destroyed. We didn't know for 2 months after the storm, and our house was just full of mold. Everything is collapsed. He's sure to say he's going to get his crew up there within a week, retarp it, because I went up there earlier when I found out, never tarped it. 3 months, I kept calling. He says, we're working on some fundraisers. We're doing our stuff down state. I'm like, I need this enclosed because I got 5-gallon buckets everywhere. It's just leaking. So he promised me finally in February, he says, we're out of business. The money's gone. I said, how is it gone? He goes, mismanagement, buying trucks, this, that. I'm like, I don't care. I said, I want my money back. I said, now I'm living on credit cards to pay for what should have been done. And I had to find another contractor to do it, which is finally, we got last Labor Day, we did it. I am to help him because he didn't have enough help. So we set trusses, set plywood, and just like everybody says, I don't have faith that we're gonna get any money back. And the credit card bills are piling up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Your Honor. My name's Larry Webb. I had, shortly after the hailstorm, I had Dominic approach me about Capital Roofing. Dominic, they did came out. I paid them out of mine as it went along. The roofing first, the siding on the house. They came out in December, took all my siding off the pole barn. Never came back. We tried to get a hold of them over and over and over. The only body, Jalen called me in February several times wanting me to send the rest of my money to him. I said, no, until you finish the job, I'm not sending no money. I said, I can't even use my pole barn. No siding set, no siding all winter. And then finally we had went on vacation, came home, and then I got the news. And during the vacation, several times I tried calling Martin and came back, heard the news that, you know, what had happened. Nobody was seeing, you know, nobody could get a hold of them. So I did call Dominic, who was the first one. He was a salesman for him, who was a very nice young man. He, you know, he did not have, he's a young guy, 21 years old, didn't have an idea, no idea that this was going to happen. So I ended up having to hire someone myself because half of the material was in the garage and I had half the material. I had to buy the rest, had them do it, finish it up. 2 months later, I finally get Martin calls me. His name comes up on my phone. He's, oh, hell, hi, Larry. I've been trying to get a hold of you. And I said, well, that's weird because your name just came out on my phone. I've been trying to call you for the last 3 or 4 months and no same number and it never answer. And the reason for his calling is to tell me that I owe him $8,200. He had been looking at the contract. Now he owed me $8,200. Now I owe him $8,200. And I said, where do you get that? I already paid a guy. One of his subcontractors paid him. I told the subcontractor, this is between me and you, not between Capital Roofing. And so he did the job, and which I said I had to buy material myself to finish it because they had taken all the siding off my house or my pole barn, and it was sitting there with just like boards. And so first threatened me for small claims court. And then Jalen called trying to imitate. Well, I shouldn't say that because I don't know for sure. But when I told him, I said, don't your name, you're Jalen. And then he sort of hung up. And then I get a letter from him. And now I got a lien on my house. And now I got to get another lawyer to try to get a lien off my house. Again, paying more money out of my pocket. My wife and myself are both on a fixed income to try to get the lien off our house. That's what we've had with Capital Roofing. I mean, it is disgusting what they had done to these people, all of us. You know, came up here and took advantage of us. It's exactly what they did.
Thank you, sir.
Appears that that's it.
Okay, I do have Ms. Cole in the waiting room, so we can conduct a restitution hearing in that claim. Do you need a minute or two? To
I do, Your Honor. We're just gonna try to contact our witness, and if we could have 5 minutes.
Okay, let's take a brief recess. We'll go off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think I'll just remain. All right, we're back on the record in the matter of People v. Green. And as to the restitution in file 93287, how are we proceeding, counsel?
Judge, I believe the witness we're going to call is Matthew Simpkins. He's a subcontractor that worked on the coal matter. And I believe he's either called in or he has appeared by Zoom, but he has been provided the phone
Yeah,
number.
he's not here yet, but as it's the prosecutor's burden, we can begin with Ms. Cole.
Very good.
All right, Ms. Cole, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, you've been asked to zoom in here to provide some testimony about the restitution amount in the matter involving Mr. Keith Green. Would you please raise your right hand for me? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
All right, Miss Cole, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, could you please state your name for the record?
Beth Ann Kale.
Kale, sorry about that.
That's
And
okay.
Ms. Kale, are you familiar with Capital Roofing?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Capital Roofing Authority, I mean?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the court how much you initially paid Capital Roofing?
39,000. I can't pull up the documents right now. I didn't realize I was going to do this,
Okay,
so I
and
can't
I
give
guess
specifics.
it was around, you said 39,000?
Yes,
Okay, and did you submit that amount actually on your victim's impact statement?
I did, because when we first started, I had no work done, nothing.
Okay. As to recently, has Capital Roofing sent any subcontractors to your dwelling?
Not recently, no. My work, he had sent somebody in the end of 22, beginning of 23, and started work and then restarted work, and then they stopped and nobody came. And I ended up hiring Simpson's Construction, which is who Capital had hired to complete my work.
Okay, and how much in total? Well, I guess could you describe for the court the process in dealing with Simpkins Construction?
It was a little bit of a fiasco with Simpkins because they showed up in the winter. I had siding damage, roof damage, interior damage because I had 3 skylights broken out. So they started by doing the work on the inside, and they replaced my floors, replaced my ceilings. That seemed to be fine. And then Simpkins, and that was a different subcontractor. And then Simpkins came in and started doing the siding. And while they were pulling off the old siding, 8 of my window trims were all chipped and broken. And he had to look at replacing those, or actually he trimmed out all my windows. And then they did my roof last. And while they were doing my roof, they pushed down the skylight casing through the kitchen ceiling again, so that the ceiling and the inside had to be redone through Simpkins. And it was because they were hiring their own subcontractors. And at that point, I didn't know what to do. I've never had any kind of insurance issues like this or how to go forward. And in the end, I ended up hiring Simpkins Construction to finish it out because my pole barn needed to be replaced, the roof. And so then we agreed on the price of $14,369, and $6,752 of it was arrearage that Capital owed him. And by paying that, he wrote on the receipt that he would not put a lien on my house.
Okay. So he threatened to put a lien on your house?
Simpkins said he could, yes.
Okay. And so again, what was that? Well, and again, but to clarify, Simpkins was sent by Capital Roofing?
Yes.
Okay. And how much in total did you have to then pay Simpkins?
I paid Simpkins $14,369.
And you had already paid Capital Roofing around $39,000?
Yes.
Okay. And that, you can't remember that exact amount, but it's on your victim's impact statement?
Yes.
And if you were here, I could refresh your recollection.
Yes, if I were able to be there, I would have tried to find my documents. I'm just not able to find them right now.
Yeah, I can take judicial notice. The victim impact statement indicates the initial payment was $39,391.13. That's the amount that was claimed.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, cross-exam.
Ms. Cole, Excuse me, Ms. Cole, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
So I wanted to ask you, what was the original job that you needed to have done? And did you get an insurance claim for payment to get the work done?
yes, I did. And it was for, like I said, roof, siding, ceilings, flooring, pole barn roof.
And how much money have you paid totally for the work that you just described that needed to be done?
I don't have that in front of me. The initial check that I'd written out to Capital, and then the 14,369.
As of today, has the work been completed?
Yes,
So the total money out of your pocket at this time is how much exactly?
what do you mean by out of my pocket? So
Well, above what you got from the insurance company. You paid 39, I believe you indicated you paid 39,000, is that correct? 39,000 plus?
yes,
And so the total amount out of pocket is something like 53,000?
yes, I believe so. In fact, just over that.
And you indicated before, what was the 14,000 for again?
The 14,000 was 7,617 to complete the work through Simkin Construction. And then the balance of 6,752, he would, if I paid that, it said, well, we will sign completed waive of lien for completion of roof. So it was so that he wouldn't put a lien on my house. It was the 6,752.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Just one question, Aaron. When was that work completed?
It was completed on September 17th of 23.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kale, I know you had opted to not attend this hearing, so now your testimony is done. You're free to terminate the call and go about your day. If you wish to continue observing, you should also feel free to turn off your video and audio and just observe if you wish. I'll leave that up to you, okay?
Okay, I will do that. I'm working, so that way I can continue with my job. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and I do have a phone number. Any objection to audio testimony from Matthew Simpkins?
No, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Are you Matthew Simpkins, sir?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right. All right, and you're being asked to testify in a court hearing about some restitution involving Beth Kale and Keith Green.
Yes.
Are you in a position where you can listen carefully to questions and give truthful testimony?
Yes, sir. I just stopped my vehicle and put it in park.
Oh, very good. Mr. Simpkins, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Keel, it's your witness. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you please state your name for the record, sir?
Matthew Simpkins.
And what is your current occupation?
Owner of Simpkins Construction. I'm a licensed builder.
And are you familiar with the Keith Green?
Yes, sir, I am. I install siding for him.
And have you had occasion to work on a job with him involving a Beth Cole?
Yes, sir, I have.
And can you describe for the court the work that you did for Mr. Green's company in regards to Miss Cole's residence?
We installed the roof on her home. We installed all the siding on her home, and then we did the roof on her barn.
And were you paid out-of-pocket money by Miss Cole to complete that job?
Miss Cole paid us the remainder of the insurance proceeds to complete that job. It was insurance money only.
Thank you. I have no other questions, Your Honor. Thank
Any
you.
cross-exam, Mr. Ryan?
How much in total were you paid by Miss Cole?
I believe it was 14,000 and some change. I'm trying to find, I only have two of the invoices, which were for her home, for the roof on her house and the roof on, or the siding on her home. I can't find the invoice for the barn,
I have no.
which I'm
I have no
looking
further
for.
questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simpkins. You're excused, so I'll remove you from the meeting here.
Thank you.
All right, any further proofs from the people?
No, Your Honor.
From the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ryan, argument as to restitution amount in this file?
Yes, I would actually argue that we're over the cap, in this sense. Ms. Kale, it really sounds like she actually got the short end of the stick, where she pays her initial $39,391.13. Capital sends a subcontractor out there, and she has to pay an additional $14,369. So I actually believe that would put us over the cap. I'd be satisfied with her, with remaining at the cap in the agreement, but I think that should be added on to the 39,000.
Well, I don't know. I mean, so she paid money but got services for that 14,000. So the restitution is money that was paid for which she did not receive commensurate services. So that's the 39. So her, I'm not sure, can I word both? Seems to me that the wrong is the 39 that she didn't get the benefit of. And then she did have to go out and spend 14,000, but that was for legitimate payment for the services that were provided then. So I'm not sure conceptually if I awarded both of those for restitution, whether there's not a little bit of a double dip there.
Understood. My point would be that she already paid for those services and then had to pay again. That would be the double dip. And
Gotcha.
in my argument, but again, we would be satisfied with the original amount she paid of the $39,391.13.
Mr. Keel.
Judge, I think it's actually the opposite. I think that the amount that was paid originally, the 39,000, those services were completed. All the work has been completed. The total amount that was owed was 39,000. That was paid. The work was completed. If there's any money out of pocket, I think she indicated that there was 14,369 above what was originally quoted. And Mr. Simpkins' comment was that part of that money was paid out of insurance proceeds. So I don't believe that's money that is necessarily money that would be out of Ms. Cole's pocket. So I believe if there is a restitution claim, it would probably be in the neighborhood of about $6,000 to $7,000, not 39, because the work was completed on the job.
All right, well, Mr. Green is convicted of criminal offenses for misspending these monies and not completing the work. So the fact that the work was completed, he gets zero credit for in my mind. And Ms. Kale testified that she had to pay Mr. Simpkins directly to get that work done. So the amount that she says she paid to Mr. Green's company was $39,391.13. he did not do what he was supposed to with those funds. So those funds are included in restitution. So I'll credit the restitution that was claimed at $39,391.13. All right, thank you. So now we have heard, we've resolved the restitution issue. We've heard from the victims that wish to be heard from. Mr. Ryan, any specific recommendations from the people as to sentence?
We do have a plea agreement, Your Honor. Again, as I said before, I want these people to get paid. I don't know if that's realistic. But I would be asking essentially that the plea agreement be followed and that restitution of the full amount.
All right, thank you, Mr. I guess, Mr. Keogh, we've had a lot of issues come up or whatever. I'll loop back and ask if you or your client have any additional allocution.
The only thing I would just say, Judge, is, and I would indicate that my client does feel for the victims in this case. I would indicate is pretty clearly that most of the individuals that were speaking here today were not dealing with my client directly. I don't think this was an intentional attempt premeditated attempt at fraud. I think this was just a poorly run company, and as a result of other people in the company having access to funds and those funds being spent, at the end of the day, my client is the one who owned the company, and my client is the one who is taking responsibility for what happened with his company. So I think with that being said, we would ask the court to consider holding jail in abeyance. If not, we would ask the court to allow Mr. Green to be sentenced in the Lapeer County Jail and be granted work release.
All right, thank you. Mr. Green, if you please stand for the court sentence. All right, well, this is a really unfortunate case all around. I mean, there is an element of fraud to the crimes to which Mr. Green pled, in that the funds were fraudulently spent and not for their intended purpose. The charge being fraudulent use of the building contract fund. But Mr. Green, your lawyer, makes a fair point that this is, even by the nature of the charge, it's fraudulent use of the construction fund. That is different from many contractor fraud cases that we see, where it is sort of a premeditated fraud, as your attorney described it, where the contractor never had any intention of doing right and took the money with the intent up front, just ripping people off. And we do see those cases, sadly. And this does not appear to be that case. It wasn't even charged in that manner. So your attorney makes some fair points there. But it is undeniable that, that a lot of these good people paid you a lot of money, and then the work didn't get done and the money got spent. And that's the crime, is that the money got spent when it should have been held for their jobs. And that is on you, and you're responsible for that. And you're properly before the court criminally responsible for that. I am deeply troubled, Mr. Green, that I just don't see any reasonable path forward for these victims to be made whole. The restitution is such a high number. If you were convicted here of defrauding just one of these families, you'd have to work real hard to pay that restitution back. The cumulative effect of all of them, I'm just not sure that this is anything that'll actually happen. And it's sad that many of these folks have to come here today and be resigned to that same fact themselves. I want to assure you that I'm going to place you on a probationary term, and you have to make reasonable efforts to do right as much as you humanly can. If I find out that you're buying a bunch of Red Bull instead of paying them, I'll send you to jail. I'm gonna put you on the maximum probation that I'm allowed for an initial term of 3 years. And I want to see serious effort in that regard. So what we have here is a sentencing guidelines range of 0 to 11 months. The way the law currently is in Michigan. That calls for the court to start off with a presumption of no upfront jail, being an intermediate sanction unless there's reasonable grounds to impose incarceration. And there's a plea agreement in this case for no more than 6 months jail on the initial term, understanding that if you violate probation, you can do additional time. On the financial aspect, you've pled to 2 files. So in 93281 and 93282, I'm going to assess $68 in state costs in both files, $130 crime victims assessment in both files. I'm not going to assess any court costs. Restitution subsumes all of these things. In file 93281, there's a $60 DNA testing fee, and you have to comply with DNA testing. In both files, I'm going to place you on probation for 36 months, subject to the terms and conditions listed in the pre-sentence report. It includes those financial assessments, including restitution in the amount of a total of $422,942.98. It'll be broken down victim by victim on the restitution form that was submitted by the prosecutor that I'll provide to the clerk today. Included in the probationary term is you have to make genuine efforts to seek and maintain legitimate employment. You have to comply with the restitution order. You can't use or possess any controlled substances or alcohol. You have to submit to drug and alcohol testing and possible treatment from as recommended by your supervising agent. In terms of the incarceration, as I said, the law requires me to start from the consideration of no upfront jail. However, in the realm of misusing the building contract fund, this is a very serious offense when I consider that category of offenses in terms of the sheer number of victims that have been impacted, which means the sheer number of times where you had to dip into these funds that should have been protected for these folks. So therefore, I do believe that there are reasonable grounds for initial incarceration in this case. The plea agreement calls for a maximum of 6 months, and that's what I'm going to impose. So you have to serve 6 months in jail with credit for 1 day in each file. Those sentences by law run concurrent. And, I haven't heard any clear plan for work and restitution claims, and there really wasn't one in the pre-sentence report. And the families that you victimized were in Presque Isle County, and Presque Isle County is where they're going to get their justice. You'll serve every one of those days in the Presque Isle County jail with no work release. That's the sentence of the court, Mr. Green. Within 24 hours of your release, you have to contact your probation agent and get to work. Wanted to appeal, you have to file an application to the Court of Appeals. If you wanted me to appoint a lawyer and you so qualified, I would do so, but you'd have to make that request within 42 days of today's date. We're going to hand you some appeal paperwork in both of the files where there was a conviction and ask you to initial 1 copy for us. The other copy is for you to fill out if you wish to appeal. Do you have any questions for me about any of this, sir?
No.
Okay, good luck to you, and we'll place you immediately in the custody of the Presque Isle Sheriff. In recess.